Hi guys, so today we will be doing the concepts of genetics. Genetics, as we know, was studied initially by the father of genetics, Gregor Mendel, and out of his studies, he proposed three laws of genetics. These three laws of genetics are called the laws of inheritance or Mendel's laws of inheritance. His work was done on the pea plant, that is the Pisum sativum. He chose 7 contrasting characters on these pea plants and he bred them across generations to see the results and to match his hypothesis. When he started his crosses, the first cross that he did was a monohybrid cross. In a monohybrid cross, we take any one character, for example, the character of height into consideration, and we cross them with alternate characters. So a tall character, a tall plant and a dwarf plant, and we see the results. So when he was doing these experiments in the F1 generation, in the first filial generation, he found all phenotypically tall plants. Now because Mendel lacked the idea of genes or alleles, he could obviously not know about the genotype, right? So he knew that the phenotype was tall and he came up with the obvious question that where is the character of dwarf? Why is it missing? He did something to figure it out, and what he did was he selfed the F1. When he selfed the F1, that is when he did this cross, he saw a weird combination. He saw that in his F2, he found tall and dwarf. So for every 4 plants, 3 would be tall and 1 would be dwarf. So the character of dwarf came back. So from this, he suggested that for any given character, there are 2 possible traits. One of the traits masks the effect of the other trait when present together. Today, we call the trait dominant, and the one that gets masked, we call it recessive. And this condition that we get in the F1 generation, we call it the heterozygous condition. So in heterozygous condition, we will always have the effect of dominance in the phenotype, whereas in genotype they will be heterozygous in nature because the recessive allele will get masked. This law is known as the law of dominance. Okay. Then comes the law of segregation. So the law of segregation, now with the idea of cell biology, we know that the law of segregation basically talks about meiosis. So what it says is that for any given set of characters, the traits would segregate themselves during the formation of gametes, irrespective or undisturbed or unhindered by any other character's trait. So for example, in this one, in a dihybrid cross, if I take the F1 generation, it is a round yellow phenotypic plant. But for them, when the gametes will be formed, the gametes will be formed such that the dominant allele of round character and the recessive allele of round character are segregated independently of one another, and they are mixed or assorted independently with the dominant and recessive alleles of the colored genes, right? So that is law of segregation, which basically talks about the law of meiosis, which is separation of homologous chromosomes during gamete formation. Right? So that's the second law of inheritance. Coming to the third law of inheritance, which is the law of independent assortment. So when Mendel did his dihybrid cross, in the F2 generation, he got a ratio, phenotypic ratio of 9:3:3:1, in which 9 and 1 are the parental combinations. So the round and yellow ones and the wrinkled and green ones, the completely homozygous dominant, the completely homozygous recessive. And the 3 were for the kinds which were the recombinants. So you have the round and green and the wrinkled and yellow. But what he noticed was that even if in this case, if we take only one character, which is let's say seed shape, Then if we do round is to wrinkled for seed shape, then the numbers come to 9 plus 3 for round and 3 plus 1 for wrinkled. Right? So that's 12 is to 4, that's 3 is to 1, which is true for this, right? For the monohybrid ratio. So this proves that even though we have taken two characters into consideration, still each character follows the inheritance pattern much like it would have in a monohybrid. Therefore, this proves that there is no influence of other characters in the inheritance pattern of this individual seed shaped character, correct? So that's why it was called independent assortment, that they get independently assorted. It does not matter what the other character is doing. So these three were the laws of inheritance or the laws given by Mendel. However, out of these three laws, we only have one universal law, which is the law of segregation, the law of meiosis, which is a universal truth. However, the law of dominance and the law of independent assortment has been disproved later when we did further genetics, right? We will discuss them in some other video. Thank you.